Hey everybody, this is Jake from ATG, All Things Geek, and this is our top 10 worst moments of superhero films 2016.
How exciting!
So the superhero movie genre continues to grow with absolutely no signs of slowing down. 2016 was no exception. It was an absolute landmark year in respect of superhero films because all three of the major superhero movie universes released 2 films each. That's Warner Brothers, Fox and Disney. Problem was, with this many films coming out, we were bound to have a couple of bad parts. So with that said, here's ATG's top 10 worst moments in superhero films 2016. Number 10, Civil War. The disguises. Baseball caps and sunglasses. I mean, is that really the best disguise? First up, it's Captain America. I mean, he's in the public eye, so people know what he looks like. So is a plain baseball cap and a pair of dark sunglasses really going to help him hide? Plus, he's with the Falcon, so they look even more inconspicuous. 2 guys that are in the public eye wearing almost matching baseball caps and sunglasses in a public place, in a bar, inside. And also, while we're on the subject of disguises in Civil War, Bucky. I mean, Bucky is a fugitive at this point. His face is plastered everywhere, and the best he can do is put on a baseball cap. I mean, mate, grow a beard, or at least cut your hair or something. Number 9, Deadpool. The lack of Xmen and Wolverine in Deadpool. Now, Deadpool in itself was a fantastic movie. It was the first superhero movie of the year, and it set the bar really, really high in terms of both audience reaction and obviously success at the box office. A few years ago, it was absolutely unthinkable that we were going to see Deadpool on screen in his own film. Hence why we got the absolute disaster that was his appearance in X-Men Origins Wolverine. But obviously, the less we say about that, the better. 2016, however, granted us fans of Deadpool with a completely faithful movie that just perfectly matched the character from comic book. It was absolutely fantastic. The unfortunate thing, I think, about this was the lack of character support in the film. When he visits Xavier's school, for example, he even makes a crack about how there's nobody else there. For me personally, that didn't really make up for the sad truth that we wasn't treated to a few more familiar faces. I mean, they didn't even need to be ones that had been used and cast before. I mean, personally, I would have been happy with just a bunch of uncredited extras populating the school, or maybe even a couple of Easter eggs in the way of slightly recognisable characters from the comic books. It just made it feel very isolated from the other X-Men films, and it highlighted the lack of faith they had in tying it to the X-Men universe that was already very, very well established. One cameo I think is safe to say that everybody wanted was from Hugh Jackman's Wolverine. If only for just a couple of seconds. They didn't have to make it into a big thing. Even if he was the one that opened the door, I would have been happy. It would have just been the icing on the top of an already delicious cake that was Deadpool. I mean, fingers crossed for Deadpool 2, hey? Number 8. Batman vs Superman. Batman's killing spree. Now, after being one of the most hyped superhero movie events ever, the opinions were definitely divided on this. Personally, I absolutely loved it. I mean, sure, it had its flaws, and many of them, but there was an underlying level of coolness about it. I mean, even if only for that moment when we saw the Trinity on screen for the first time. Now, regardless of whether you loved or hated Batman vs Superman Dawn of Justice, everything was going pretty well right up until the moment that Batman goes after Lex Luthor's men in that action-packed Batmobile chase scene, and all of a sudden the hero who has this no-kill rule, and that's a major part of his personality in the comic book, just starts murdering these men in cold blood, whether it's blowing them up or crushing them to death. Now, if you're a fan of Batman, it made for quite uncomfortable viewing. Snyder has attempted to justify this in interviews, but regardless of Batman's and Superman's other issues, the Dark Knight murdering crime spree wasn't the best part. Number 7. X-Men Apocalypse. Mystique / the X-Men costumes. Now, I'll put these both together because I think it kind of ties in. Incredible as it was to finally see the X-Men wearing their classic costumes in X-Men Apocalypse, it was ruined for me for 2 reasons. Firstly, Fox decided to spoil it in all the trailers and official images, so it gave us no real sense of excitement when we actually saw the moment on screen. But also because when we did, it didn't last all that long. But the second reason was that it was ruined because Mystique was now leading them. I mean, we've grown used to seeing Mystique being a focal point of this franchise, but the fact that things wrap up with her leading the X-Men was just pants. Not only does it greatly diminish the importance of characters like Professor X and Cyclops, but it also feels like a pretty desperate attempt by Fox to keep the box office draw on Jennifer Lawrence. I mean, don't get me wrong, I really like her in her role as Mystique, and we've obviously got very used to seeing her there. But why they couldn't have done that by having Mystique revert to her villainous nature is really hard to see. Number 6, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Out of the Shadows. Shredder. The 2014 reboot kept Shredder, the Turtles' long-time arch nemesis. He was shrouded largely in mystery, and the villain was essentially turned into a metallic creation just ripped straight out of a Michael Bay's Transformer film. When Out of the Shadows cast someone as awesome as Brian T. from the Wolverine, I really expected that we would see a version of Shredder that would really do him justice. However, they didn't really give him enough screen time to really make any sort of impact. But then to really rub it in, Shredder was just sort of completely sidelined during the final showdown with the Turtles, almost in a, yeah, forget about him, look at the budget that we spent on this big bad guy Krang. Number 5, Civil War, the cameos. Spider-Man. So although he was an absolutely brilliant addition to Captain America Civil War, I've got a gripe about one thing. Now, Peter Parker says that he's had his powers 6 months. So if origin movies have taught us anything, then he didn't go straight out dressed as Spider-Man and start fighting crime. So take away a couple of months of breaking in and discovering himself and his newfound powers. Stark in that time has researched him, figured out his identity and how his web shooters work, etc., and also built him a new suit. So did he channel his Sherlock character or something? I mean, there's some serious timeline issues there. And if his identity was that easy to figure out, I hope that in the upcoming Homecoming film, the villains know exactly who he is. No, I don't hope that. That would be awful. Let's just completely ignore this plot hole. Ant-Man. Now, much as his inclusion in the film was one of my highlights, Captain America explains to him that by being included in the fight that's coming up, he will then become a wanted man. To which he shrugs off in true Paul Rudd style, yeah, what's new? But the whole reason he became a superhero in the original Ant-Man film in the first place was to become a good guy and to be able to spend more time with his daughter. So how is now playing with other superheroes, who he's got no previous ties to, is now important than the family time that he wanted originally. I really hope that they explain this in the upcoming Ant-Man and Wasp. Number 4. X-Men Apocalypse. Okay, so he's supposed to be the first mutant, the biggest threat the X-Men have ever faced, and yet he's actually just the film's biggest problem. Now, we never exactly know what his powers are. I mean, we see him do lots of things, but it's always quite vague. And because it seems to differ from the comic books, what we're left with is a little bit of a disappointment. His motivations are almost childish, the whole "I want to rule the world" thing. And Oscar Isaac's performance is lost under all that makeup and CGI and wardrobe and all the rest of it. Now, I mean, he is supposed to have this grand, old, frightening presence that, you know, is scripted throughout time. But it never actually materialises on screen. It looks really silly and it's very underwritten as a part. I mean, let's be honest, the makeup was off. Let's make a comparison to Marvel's Vision, for example. A completely believable character that was developed through the use of proper makeup and obviously CGI as well. So why is it that it was so hard for Fox to do with Apocalypse in Apocalypse? It just felt that he looked a bit goofy, and let's not mention at all of those Power Ranger Ivan Ooze references. Number 3, Suicide Squad. Slipknot. Okay, so Slipknot wasn't introduced like all of the other characters. There was no real backstory. We just meet him at the whole suiting up scene, and we're supposed to just accept that he's on the team because he can climb good? I mean, wasn't this team put together to combat the likes of Superman if Superman decided to go all evil? So when his crazy witch and her massively CGI'd brother are creating havoc, they bring in Task Force X. I mean, they don't contact Batman? I mean, hang on, where is Batman? Okay, so there's no Batman, so let's use this team. And let's bring in this guy that can climb good. I mean, something tells me that he's going to die. Oh, wait, cut to a few scenes later, and... Number 2, Suicide Squad. The Enchantress. Okay, so Suicide Squad took the consecutive spots of 2 and 3. Now, I really liked Suicide Squad as a film. Let's be honest, the Enchantress might actually be the worst comic book villain of all time. And let's not actually mention her ridiculous CGI brother. Okay, so most of what we see here is Task Force X or the Suicide Squad, and the whole scene just kind of looks ridiculous. Okay, so the Enchantress has the power to wipe all of these heroes / anti-heroes out, but actually decides to take them on in hand-to-hand combat, and then gets beaten up as a result as well. I mean, there's loads of slow motion, she looks silly, she wiggles around, she looks bizarre. And what should have been a really awesome outing for the bad guys of DC just actually ended up being a poorly written finale. And correct me if I'm wrong, but am I the only one that saw a hint of the original Ghostbusters there as well? Okay, so in the original script, the Joker was supposed to show up here and confront the team. Now, I think that would have made a really interesting ending and actually taken a little bit of the focus away from how bad the Enchantress was. It just ended up to be a massively disappointing ending and just highlighted how bad of a choice of a big bad it was for her. And the really disappointing thing as well is that after all of that, Julie Moon lives and it's a big happy ending for her and Rick Flag anyway. Number 1, Batman vs Superman, Martha. So the number 1 spot goes to Batman vs Superman. I'll be honest, this particular scene didn't bother me as much as pretty much everybody else out there. However, when I look back at it and I've watched it a couple of times, there's actually no denying that this moment is just ridiculous and doesn't actually work. I mean, let's look at the build-up. Batman is really intent on killing Superman. I mean, he thinks that he's responsible for the death of thousands and thousands of innocent people. But then he learns that Superman and his mother both share the same name, and it stops him. Okay, I can see the point. It humanises Superman, this alien, the Man of Steel, in Batman's eyes, but it doesn't change the actual fact that Batman believed that Superman was responsible for all these people dying. Okay, so after that, everything's forgiven, and Batman is suddenly a best friend to Superman. I mean, it doesn't really feel earned. I mean, they've got a really interesting relationship in the comic books. And in this it just seemed rushed and almost kind of like, okay, so how can we now have it that they become best friends? Oh, I know, they've both got the same name. They've both got the same, both their mums have got the same name. Fantastic, that's a plot point. It'd be really nice if Justice League actually make up for this, but I think that it's actually just going to be something that's glossed over and forgotten about. So there it is, ATG's top 10 worst moments in superhero films 2016. What did you think? Did you agree? Did you disagree? Is there anything we missed? Pop your thoughts in the comment box below. Don't forget to share, like, subscribe ATG and check us out across all social media. Currently we're running a competition where you can win 2 free tickets to the London Super Comic Con in August. All you have to do is subscribe to our channel and the lucky winner will be picked out later on in the year. Check out our Facebook group, our Twitter and our website for further details. Hit subscribe and enter yourself into the competition. Good luck and thanks for watching.